Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is when you're watching. It's Tim's Final Confessions. Mike Lebrain is joining me. Hello, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You have a really cool jersey. Let's show that off.
Sure thing. So this is the front. You get the Triumph crest.
Yep.
Never surrender. And see if I can get a good view of the back here.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Now, I assume you got that from the website?
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as they announced that these were coming out, I decided I wanted a hockey jersey. And I bought one that I'm swimming in, but that's how I like my hockey jerseys to fit.
Right on. So on this episode, I've done Triumph episodes before, but I like sitting in with Mike and seeing what kind of goodies he's got and going back and forth about our experiences with the band. So this is like a Triumph, I don't know, you should call it a retrospective, but we're going to go through the catalog and show off what we have. And, if we got any personal anecdotes about the albums as we get to them. A band that I've been into for a long time, probably one of the first hard rock bands I ever really got into. And I've just always been a fan. And, within the last year with the documentary out, there's renewed interest in them and there's lots of cool reissues they're putting out. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little Triumph this morning. So I guess I'll start by asking, it's kind of a funny question because I'm not sure I know the answer to it myself. But Mike, when did you first be aware of Triumph or get into them? What's your
I'm thinking, and I was looking for the record earlier, but I think they must have been on Masters of Metal Volume 2. I'm thinking
they were.
So that was definitely the first time I heard them would have been that record. But then Much Music came along and Follow Your Heart was in rotation when we first got Much Music into VCR. So Follow Your Heart is actually one of the very first music videos on our very first music video tape.
Yeah.
And it went from there. Whatever Much Music was playing, I was into. I did not actually buy a physical Triumph album until high school, and I bought Stages, which we'll get to. But that's how I discovered Triumph, basically that record, and of course our good friends at Much Music.
Absolutely. I think the first video I ever saw by them was the live version of Magic Power from the US Festival. They played that, and then by the time I had Much Music, Somebody's Out There was current. But Follow Your Heart, when I saw that video, it was long before I started going to concerts. It made me want to go to a concert. It looked so exciting. And I love it's one of those videos where it tracks, it holds on the guitar and everything's moving around it. There's a couple other videos that I can think of right off the bat that do that. One is Y&T Mean Streak. They do that with Dave Meniketti's guitar during the solo. And here's an obscure track for you, which I love. I know you know it. Out in the Fields. Gary Moore and Phil Lynott. They do that during Gary's solo. Holds on the guitar.
I've only ever had that on a Thin Lizzy Greatest Hits VHS, so it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Much Music actually played that video quite a bit. That's the first time I was ever aware of Thin Lizzy.
Really? Well, that's interesting.
I actually didn't know it was Thin Lizzy.
The Triumph video definitely made a huge impact on me, and same as you with like the live concert experience. But I think
the lights
for me
and the crowd and just I love the song too.
I was 12, like turning 13, and I was like, look at the girls in the audience, and that was like me discovering rock and roll as every young teen boy did, really. It's like those music videos had an impact.
Yeah, likable band. They're just a likable band. I've always found that. So I want to go through and I'll talk about, obviously I started maybe a year or so after you did as far as becoming aware of them, but there was just nothing not to like about them. But I want to talk about their catalog and getting into the Triumph catalog. The early years, it's a little confusing, and I'm probably mansplaining, but I like to go into it. First of all, they have a 45 that I've only been aware of for the last few years on Discogs. That's 2 songs that have never surfaced anywhere else. I don't have it. It's on Attic Records. The A side is called Hobo.
Okay.
Can't remember. It wasn't written by the band. For the life of me, I can't remember who wrote it. And the B side, now I can't remember what the B side's called, but there are 2 Triumph songs out there on an Attic 45, circa 1975, that have never surfaced on an album. I'm guessing the band doesn't like either of the songs. Otherwise, they would have. But I only became aware of that in the last few years, and I went on YouTube and looked up the songs, and it was like, wow.
So it's
because
their version of the Rush, not Fade Away, when we discovered that existed.
that is exactly this comparison. Not
Yeah.
Fade Away with You Can't Fight It. It's like when you thought you heard everything there was to hear. Hey, here's 2 more songs.
And never reissued.
Never reissued. And reissuing, there's a lot of reissues. So I got into Triumph as far as buying their albums, 87. So I had Thunder 7, I had Stages, and no. I had Thunder 7 and I had Allied Forces. So early summer 1988, I bought this.
Okay.
So this is the Canadian MCA reissue of Rock and Roll Machine. And
I have a CDR. It's not the real deal.
yeah, so that's different. That's a different album.
Right.
Yeah. So this, you have to understand, people have to try to understand before the internet, when you couldn't just look things up, you used your brain, what you may have read in magazines, what you saw in much music, what you may have heard on the radio, and what was presented to you in the albums that you bought. So I bought this cassette, and in the fine print there, it says this recording is a compilation from the previously released albums Triumph and Rock and Roll Machine. And my 13-year-old brain read that, and I went, okay, like, what was I supposed to do with that information? I'm like, this is the first album, right? This is it, right? Right now, I kind of knew that wasn't exactly the case. And it's thanks to Much Music. I'm going to bring them up a lot because I remember watching the Power Hour. I watched the Power Hour. I watched Much Music a lot.
Yeah.
And I always watched the Power Hour, and I'd love it when any show would have a request show because you'd see videos you wouldn't normally see. And sometimes they would actually read the letters that people would send in. And they read this one, probably Erica Am. She said something about, this comes from such and such, and I don't know, Mississauga or something like that. And they said, would like to see a Triumph video you didn't normally see. And they listed a bunch of songs. And one title stood out to me because I'd never heard it. And it's kind of a catchy title. And the title was What's Another Day of Rock and Roll? And so that went right in here. It uploaded instantly.
Okay.
Well, that's not on here. So that was clue number 1, that all is not as it seemed in the Triumph world. So anyway, as I learned, I'll bet you it was that was 88. It was another 5 years before the mystery started to reveal itself, or the solution to the mystery, because by that time I had a license and I learned where there were used music stores. That was a huge thing. Because if you're only relying on what the record stores were selling you, well, MCA wanted to sell you this.
Yeah.
And at one point, the first few Triumph albums I had, they all looked like this.
Yes.
Which they look kind of good together. But anyway, I've only got a couple of them down. So anyway, yeah, that's a compilation of the first 2 Triumph albums. That's half. So that means that there's an entire album's worth of songs that were orphaned for quite a long time. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of the versions of the very first Triumph album, which, as it said, was self-titled. The next thing that I got to sort of unlock that, spring 94. This was awesome. I remember, my mother was a great yard sailor. Well, she still is. Let's face it. And now so am I, if I think there's music. And she brought home one of those like clear but smoky colored like cases that held like 15 or 12 8-tracks.
Yeah.
Had a lid on it, and it had a bunch of 8-tracks in it. And she said they were selling it for $2. And she just looked at it for a second and thought that I would like at least some of them that were in there. And
for
it was
$2, actually, that's worth taking a chance.
Just for the case.
Yeah.
And it was actually a pretty good haul, because in that was April Wine, Stand Back, Alice Cooper, Lace and Whiskey, which is kind of rare, Farewell to Kings, Night in the Ruts, and this.
Ooh.
So this is the first time that I ever saw the horrible first Triumph album, the cover of it on Attic Records. And of course, I had a working 8-track player at the time, Mike, but this didn't play.
Okay.
And so looking at it, I'm like, okay, Let Me Get Next to You, Easy Life, Don't Take My Life, What's Another Day of Rock and Roll? Because there's 4 songs on here I'd never heard before. Well, I had to wait a little bit longer. I had to wait a little bit longer until I found just what you held up. I found this about a year later, the first album. So yeah, Canadian Attic Records pressing. They talk about this in the documentary. I think I don't know if they put like petroleum jelly on them to make them look sweaty or something, but it's
did not
bad
work.
album cover. Like it's right up there with the first Montrose album or that Orleans album cover. Is like, what's going on here, guys? What is this? And I'll get your opinion on this. But that flame,
Yeah.
does that look like the shape of something to you?
An eye? The Eye of Sauron, perhaps? Is that where you're going?
I love that you went there, but no, I always said, is that supposed to be shaped like Canada?
I don't get that out of it.
Okay.
I see where I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think that's a coincidence.
It's like when you mention something and they don't see it, you're like, yeah, me neither.
I mean, now that you mention it, I see like the outline of the north,
Yeah, that's basically all I meant, And
the Great Lakes would be in Rick Emmett's armpit.
There you go. So now I was able to hear those songs anyway. I put them on the turntable and heard them. And actually, something I just found a few years ago was this. This is hard to find. The first album on cassette. Like this took me until probably the last 2 or 3 years before I actually found this on cassette, which is kind of weird. I had the 8-track for years, but
there it is.
And so then to get a really high quality version of it in 1995, probably Mike and Gil, they started re-releasing their albums on their own label, TRC, and this came out. So this is called In the Beginning, and they obviously wanted to replace that album cover. They kept the kind of primitive logo that's on it. This is just the first album, so it was like cool. And like all of the reissues, I like they put the crest on them. We'll see a few of these.
Yep, they look great.
And so that's the first Triumph album. And it was not released, I don't think, anywhere else in the world. So the next part of the puzzle actually came first. I know I'm jumping in the timeline here, but so summer 93. Oh man, I got so many good memories of finding good hauls in different places. Summer 93, I found this.
Right.
This is the cassette as you held up the CD of Rock and Roll Machine as it came out in Canada in 1977 on Attic Records. And so I picked this up, and it's got Little Texas Shaker, New York City Streets Part 1 and 2, The City Part 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
There's some more songs that I'd never heard before.
Great stuff too.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So there was an album's worth of songs that got orphaned by not being on the album. This is actually one of a handful of sealed 8-tracks I've been able to find.
Wow.
Canadian Attic Records.
$4.
That's not what I paid for it.
Right. That would have been the original retail sticker.
Yeah. And this tells me that they were trying to get rid of them at one point. It's a little in it.
Yep, that's a return.
Yeah. And actually, when I realized that they were doing the reissue campaign, I went into, I think it was a Sam the Record Man, summer 95, saw this.
There it is.
And because I had the cassette, I knew exactly what it was. It was like just snatched that right up again. And so then it's like, okay, now I know, kind of what I was missing. And I also found this. This is the Canadian record. I like this album cover.
I like the cover too, by the way.
Yeah.
Even though that doesn't really look like them. That's a great face.
Yeah, that's great guitar face. Rick Emmett had some great guitar faces.
He really did. He really did.
Another thing I liked about this was kind of cool. I don't think any of these albums, but it's all of these Attic Records releases.
Oh, neat.
So this has, it's got like Anvil and Lee Aaron, but it's also got,
Guaranteed heavy.
It's also got, like the Judas Priest stuff that was on Gull and some of the Motorhead stuff, and then bands that you've never heard of since, like Battle Axe, Spartan Warrior, Tank,
Tank.
Bernie Torme.
Oh, I see the best of Judas Priest on the other side there. Yeah.
Yeah. Metal for Breakfast, which is an awesome compilation.
Totally remember the TV ad for Metal for Breakfast.
Metal for Breakfast. I mean, it's got Y&T on it. It's got Accept, Kill It Dwarves, Ozzy, Blotto, Metalhead by Blotto.
Love it. I love Blotto.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that version of Rock and Roll Machine. Now we're moving into territory that I think more people are familiar with. One of the first CDs I ever bought when I was replacing my cassettes is this, which is I don't think this is easy to find these days.
No, it's not.
This is a Canadian MCA issue of that Rock and Roll Machine comp with the wonderful, gift wrap looking MCA
budget. Budget.
Yeah. With the, other artists available and minimal for credits and stuff. And something it never clued into me back then is like this album cover doesn't jive with the rest of them. It's more, it's newer looking than the couple that would follow. And that's because this didn't come out until 83.
Yeah.
I understand that now. It also was their debut in the US with a different cover. It's got this kind of cool shot of them on stage. It's the same compilation. It's got the same songs on it. So they were on RCA Records in the US. But what's cool about it, this is a US, but it's still got an Attic logo on it. And it's copyrighted 1976, 1977, Attic Records Limited. So that's a clue that they're drawing from, other albums.
So that would be licensed by Attic, I guess.
What's that?
It'd be licensed by Attic then for RCA.
It's almost exactly like AC/DC.
Right.
Their first couple of albums, High Voltage, TNT. When they signed with Atlantic internationally, High Voltage comes out. It's actually not like with the Triumph one. It's evenly balanced.
Yeah.
Four songs. With AC/DC, the album Australians know as TNT is pretty much what we know as High Voltage.
Yeah.
It's like 7 of the 9 songs are the same, right? Anyway, got a couple other things to show you while we're still in this early period. Like I said, it's kind of confusing. This is the Canadian version of the Rock and Roll Machine reissue on MCA, just a Canadian retail version. I mean, I'm a sucker for this. It's cool.
It's a great looking cover.
Flying V, very Allied Forces looking, and I think that was the idea. They wanted to catch,
tie it
hey,
in.
if you like that one, try this one, right?
Yeah.
And another thing here, found this a while ago. I thought this was cool. This is the US version of the album on RCA with the same back cover as the Canadian issue. And one more thing. This is a really oddball thing. This is a UK cassette. And it's just called Triumph, but it's the Rock and Roll Machine comp. You can see by the song titles on it. It came in a gold covered plastic case. I've never seen one like this.
Wow.
And it's on RCA and it's a UK cassette.
Now, where the heck did you find that?
My favorite store, Discogs. I think it was Discogs. Yeah.
Did you know about the gold case before it came?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
I bought it because it was just called Triumph. Honestly, I thought I was getting the first album.
Yeah.
But kind of got half of it.
So something better, really.
Yeah. So is that all that you held up? Is that all you've got for the first couple of albums?
Yeah, I'm into the standard releases, Just a Game, Never Surrender, that kind of stuff.
Cool. All right. So yeah, we'll get to that. And next up is a great album, Just a Game.
Yeah.
This is a Canadian Attic Records version. I like it when they fill in the color on the Attic logo.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, they don't always do that. Sometimes it's just the outline of it. This, of course, was the breakthrough album. Hold On, Late on the Line. Yeah. Mike and I posted a short video where we compared our CD versions of these albums. And I've just got the MCA, the budget looking, At the time, though, I was replacing my cassettes. So these were, well, they were budget.
Yeah.
They were relatively cheap, you know.
They came with a sticker on the front. I think it said Super Saver.
Yes, every label had the Super Saver, nice price. They all had their version of a budget line series. This is another one of the many cassettes that I had that had the blue MCA, just that primary color blue, and great album. And one of the when I first started making pilgrimages to Fredericton to Backstreet Records, start buying vinyl. This was one of the first albums that I bought. It looks so cool with this. First of all, the gatefold. I love this. I'd love to have a huge poster of this rectangular scene here.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I was always a sucker for anything that looked like a spaceship. So that kind of qualifies. Yep. It's got jet engines on it.
Yep. And the back, the board game. And inside of it, it's got the unwinnable board. It's a long way to the top kind of thing, right? And there's always cool shots of them on stage. Yeah. Because, they always had exciting stage shows. Wonderfully reprinted inside that CD.
Yeah, it is. You could play that.
Yeah. They really do a good job. So yeah, Just a Game was a breakthrough album. Eventually it went gold in the States, like many years later was certified. Next up, an album that, kind of has a bad reputation because of where it falls in the catalog, but I don't have any problem with it. Progressions of Power, 1980.
Because of that bad reputation, I actually don't own this one yet.
I mean, this got I Live for the Weekend and Tear the Roof Off, Hard Road. I think there's some great songs on here. This is the US, of course, RCA.
Love the cover.
Still with the Attic. Yeah, see, they haven't quite gotten to the coolest covers yet. They got the logo.
It's so good. I mean, it reminds me of like a movie from that period of time,
yes. Yeah, very much. Just the heads, the floating heads.
Like you could picture some guy walking up to the three disembodied heads asking for Oracle-like advice,
Kind of reminds me of Superman.
Very much like Superman. Yeah. Guilty.
Yeah. That reminds me, or the Quintessons.
Oh, the Quintessons, yes.
Yeah, innocent. Yeah, anyway. This is the Canadian Attic Records version.
Now, is this the first appearance of the Triumph Lightning Bolt logo, or was that? No, it was on Just a Game. It was on Just a Game.
Kind of, but with it illuminated like that, which they would do a lot, it's the first.
And it definitely takes more of a center stage on that cover than Just a Game's very busy.
Just a Game, it's just part of Just a Game.
Yeah.
This is the CD. It took me a while to find this on CD. I actually found this in the States, and it's green this time around. They just didn't know what to do.
No, it was just random, really.
Just completely random. Because it doesn't go with the artwork. I would think that this would stand out in a record store rack.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't a success. This also, I mean, look at the way that they're the what do you call that effect? It's like a time delay. It's moving away from
multiple exposures.
It's like what does that remind me of? I want to say Star Trek, but that's just in general. But
it kind of gives me a Styx-like vibe.
That too, yeah. So yeah, that's the Canadian version, and again, more live shots.
Yeah, great.
And lyrics. So that takes us up. Big one. Their most successful album. Their only platinum release in the US. I'm guessing you have different copies of it than I have, which I'm always looking forward to.
Okay. Well, I believe we are talking about Never Surrender.
Nope.
No. Oh, sorry. Which one?
See if Mike remembers.
I'm missing it, whatever it is. I'm sorry. I don't own this album.
Okay. No problem. Allied Forces.
Oh, wait. No, sorry. Duh. I do own this album, but I have a rather special version of it. There we go.
Mike just, folks, this is Mike. He forgets he has stuff, and then he's got the ultimate version of it. I love it. Yeah,
it's beautiful too. Wait till you see it inside.
Allied Forces. Yeah, let's see what's in that thing.
So this version, I got it very early on, and it came with the Rick Emmett guitar pick, which is somewhere in here. Here's the sticker from the front when it was first released. Cool. Little backstage pass there. Nice concert poster.
That's so awesome.
Gardens, $12.50. Not bad. Bigger poster that I'm not going to attempt to
I know. It's
disassemble.
hard. Yeah.
It came with a bonus single, which is nice. Came with this bonus Magic Power Live in Ottawa 1982 single. And then the B-side is the Phil X re-recording of Allied Forces, which is, I believe, coming out on a tribute album at some point.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that.
Repro tour book.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I love these.
I miss tour books.
Me
Bands don't
too.
do tour books anymore.
More of those great live shots that you love.
Yeah.
And this is vinyl only, by the way. This particular release was never put out on CD. And it was a limited edition RSD thing, but they later released copies to their website. Here's your typical folder full of all the goodies.
Yes, your portfolio.
Yep, your portfolio.
Seems to me that our buddy Andy Curran had a hand in
he did
putting this together. Yeah,
a loving hand. There is the 40th anniversary Allied Forces.
I love that. That would make it its own album cover.
It really would, yeah. So that's a picture disc, by the way, is what I was showing you there.
That's awesome.
And the back cover's great too. I love the Habs shirt and the broken stone, big crack in the stone there.
Do you suppose that perturbed Maple Leafs fans because they're a Toronto band? They've got a Montreal.
I don't know
shirt?
because Mike Lebrain has always been wearing the Flames jersey, so I don't know if they had hockey. I don't know what the hockey situation with Triumph was.
Mike Lebrain typically wore jerseys on stage.
Yes,
a
lot of
probably
Flames jerseys.
Whatever city they were in, right?
And this is the this was later released as the King Biscuit Flower Hour CD.
It's a great concert.
It is a fabulous concert. And finally, this was an exclusive for when we ordered it. It's a Rick Emmett, Then Again 2021 guitar pick. And when I was disassembling this for the very first time, I almost lost the guitar pick.
Oh,
you know how these tiny things just disappear into the ether. Yeah. So anyway, that's my version of Allied Forces. The album that I forgot I owned.
I feel a little insignificant. I don't know.
Well, you go ahead with your nice, cute CDs and cassettes.
Yeah. This is a Canadian Attic version. It's actually a Columbia House cassette. So the Attic logo is not colored in. It's just the outline of it. And that's what the CD. I like how they have the Attic logo on the cassette. It's kind of cool. And the writing, that takes me back. The way that the song titles are written is.
I just have a thing for white cassette shells, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so cool looking.
Yeah. This is the US RCA 8-track to their biggest album. And let's see, one of the first after Rock and Roll Machine, this was one of the first Triumph CDs I got. So this is just an MCA version, Canadian MCA version, with just random imagery that they decide. They just show a bit of that cracked stone on there, but they actually
that's so the Leafs fans would still buy the album without, they don't get the bad news until they open it up.
There's actually a little bit inside of it, but not much. It's just got the Flying V and the song titles. And of course, got the vinyl. It's a Canadian Attic version with that same, back cover on it. And I think, so there's the lyrics, and then there's, again, cool live shots making you want to go see the band live, right? They were pretty smart about that. Next album you already mentioned, 1983, Never Surrender.
Personal favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah?
Love this album. It's one of the, actually, you know what? This was one of the first Triumph studio albums I ever bought. After the current ones, which are Sport of King and Surveillance, this is the first one that I kind of went backwards. I love this album. And this guy on the front cover, we might see him again.
It's such a cool album cover.
Yeah.
This is the only one. This is interesting because this was a in-between period for them, because this is when they were transitioning record labels. So it is possible to find Canadian copies of Never Surrender on Polydor. because for a very, very brief window, they were on Polydor, but only in Canada. This is their last RCA album in the States. There's also Attic versions, Canadian Attic versions of Never Surrender. And actually, they must have been negotiating with Polydor. I find this stuff fascinating, as you know, because you can go on Discogs and find versions of the original 2 Canadian albums, like Triumph and Rock and Roll Machine, as Polydor reissues, which basically they took the Attic labels and slapped Polydor logo on them, or Polydor serial number.
Gotcha.
I've never seen any of them in person. This is the only Triumph album I have on a US RCA cassette, which it looks so weird to me because RCA is not a rock and roll label, like not a heavy rock label. That's what it looks like on the side. And it's actually, for such an old album, it's actually got credits and lyrics, even though they're printed minuscule. I think that this one was actually the last of the Triumph CDs that I found to replace my cassettes. So I got this MCA
compact disc, compact price,
and it's got the cheap little
purple.
And what's weird about it is that the copyright date's wrong. It actually says 1986 MCA Records on it. So they got that wrong. They got that wrong. And what's inside of here? Womp womp.
Nothing.
That's it. So, but it was a way to get the music. And honestly, until the deluxe edition started coming out, it just made me ever more determined to find the vinyl. So this isn't one that I see all that much on vinyl. This is actually a Canadian Columbia House edition on MCA. So this is probably from the mid 80s.
Very cool. Compare the front covers are the coloring on the front colors are very different. You have so much more yellow on the eagle's head.
It's interesting it's interesting sometimes how they transfer over.
Yeah, they don't always get it quite right to the original, do they?
There's the sleeve.
I also just want to shout out to that kind of new Triumph Eagle logo.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is a killer logo.
That's the first appearance of that. Which brings us to my personal favorite and the first one I ever bought by this band, Thunder 7.
Right.
I love this album so much. This is a Canadian cassette. I love this album. Sometimes some people don't like this album. I think a lot of fans will say Allied Forces is the best, but for me, this is just, you can't go wrong with it. Now, here's another funny thing. Do you remember the Much Music Handbook?
No.
They put 2 editions out of them, like 1985 and 1986. I only ever had the first one. It was a little spiral, and it had a calendar in it. It had some artist information. It had various pictures, mostly Canadian artists, and the picture of Triumph that was in it was this picture.
Okay.
I'm surprised you don't remember the Much Music Handbook, but
no, I don't remember that at all. That picture is not in my copy of this album at all.
And I think our CDs are pretty much the same. I think you get a Canadian one, I get a US one. These are the original MCA issues. This would have been the first Triumph album to come out on CD when the album was new. It's actually got a copyright date of 1984 and 1985, just a smaller version of the front cover. Again, early days for CDs, not really knowing, I think, what to do with it. And then inside, you've got this. But, Eddie Kramer produced this one. I think it's a great sounding album. I'm just such a big fan. And it was among one of the first vinyl records I ever bought. I remember buying this at a Sam's with a
cutout. Okay.
Piece taken. I think it was like I paid $1.99 for it to get this in full.
And it's also got an orange mat around the edge.
Yeah, which I think they kind of do in the CD. So that's where that comes from. So yeah,
I have to say that this copy here was a gift from Tim. It was a surprise. It arrived, and I was like panicking, like, I didn't order this. Where'd it come from? I made a Facebook post like, who bought me this? And Tim's like, hey, I bought this. And
when we talked about doing this episode, Mike said he didn't yet have Thunder 7. I said, we can't do a Triumph episode without you owning.
And I'm
Thunder
glad
7
that we did.
So I got to fix that. It was a sense of duty, Mike.
Now, in my defense, we've discussed this as well. Martin Popoff gave this a legendary 1 out of 10 star review, which is probably the reason why I avoided buying it for so long. Because, coming from Martin, it means something. You know, it's not like I read it in a Rolling Stone. I read it in Martin Popoff's book, and I would like to know if his opinion has changed since then. But that is why Tim had to buy me this album.
I don't think that it has. I don't think that's ever been a favorite band of his, which is surprising because usually he champions most Canadian bands. Yeah, but it's funny. I read the same review, but I already heard the album. I already knew I liked it. So
okay,
just think about it. If you hadn't heard Def Leppard Hysteria, would you have listened to it?
I would have avoided it like the plague based on his 0 out of 10 star review.
Yeah, Martin's a buddy, so yeah, we're just it's all in good fun. So yeah, this is what was inside the record, all the lyrics, and now you may have noticed with Never Surrender, that's the only Triumph 8 track I don't have. That's hard to find. But I do have this.
Haha.
This is a U.S. Columbia House issue of my favorite Triumph album, and
blue matting on the side.
Songs out of order. I love the fact, see, a lot of the Columbia House 8 tracks use the blue, and it goes so well.
With that, it does.
This particular cover.
Yes.
So yeah, I was glad to get this, and if I ever get Never Surrender, I'll do a spotlight episode just on my Triumph 8 track. So yeah, Triumph Thunder 7 was actually their first album under their MCA contract. Of course, they reissued the other albums. I'd love to know what the decision-making process was to not reissue the first 2 albums as they were at that point. I'd like to know what that was, because from this point on, and we'll get to it very shortly, they referred to Rock and Roll Machine 1978 as the debut. So I think they were really trying to, I don't know, it seemed like they were trying to obscure, those early tracks. But anyway, that brings us to the next album, which is a double live album, which he didn't get a lot of in the mid 80s. I remember getting this for Christmas in 1988, Stages. This is just a US, it's a Canadian cassette. And we talked about this in a chat. I got a chuckle out of this, even when I was just young. But this got this picture inside of it of them on stage. On the other side, it's an identification card, which you could fill out and put in your wallet or something. And I'm like, that's kind of
right, which I have no memory of.
And again, I'm surprised by that, because usually we're dead on with that stuff. But yeah, it's Triumph identification card. But
now that was my first Triumph purchase. I was in grade 11, and one of my high school classmates, Rob Peterson, recommended Stages. He's like, man, if you want a good overview of Triumph plus a great live album, get Stages. I think it might have been like his favorite live album of all time. And wow. I wasn't expecting much when I got it, because I'm like, Triumph, they're not Kiss, they're not Iron Maiden. How good could their double live album be? And then I got it, and I was like, I am a serious Triumph fan now. These guys are awesome. And there was a drum solo, there was a guitar solo, there was Midsummer's Daydream, and two bonus studio tracks. 2 bonus
studio tracks. Mind Games is a really, really cool song, which I think paved the way for their next album, because it was a little bit more commercial sounding. And there's so much cool stuff inside of here. So many cool pictures to look at. And there's little bits of Billboard magazine where you can see some of their songs charting. But if you look at the discography down the side, it's just got Rock and Roll Machine listed as the first album. So that was the party line, as it were. And I've got this original Canadian CD on MCA, which cuts the drum solo and
Allied Forces.
What a weird song to cut.
This one is also missing Allied Forces and Drummer Selbo, as it was listed on the back. Which
translates as drummer's elbow.
Yes.
Because as it says in the liner notes, Gary McCracken from Max Webster actually plays the drums on Mind Games. And it says something about filling in for Gil's annual arm injury. Yeah. So I don't know. He probably went skiing or something.
So you still can't get the full thing on CD. You have to buy cassette or vinyl to get the full thing.
Here's what I know about that. When they started putting out those CDs called extended versions.
Yes.
I think if you get the Triumph one.
Oh, you get the rest of the tracks?
I think so. I don't have it, but I think
Tim,
you at least get the drum solo.
I think I'm going to place an Amazon order, as I often do after we have shows together. I might place an Amazon order. Did that with Journey, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love it when you watch these back and you see us ordering things in real time.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm going to check out that extended versions, although sometimes they get deleted and expensive.
Yes. Latex.
Yeah.
So the next one, oh, what do you got?
I got Sport of Kings.
Yeah, next, this is where they really came up on my radar.
I loved this album when it came out, man.
1986.
It just hit me in that hard rock spot that I wanted to be hit.
This is a Canadian version, and very much, much more commercial. And I think the guys themselves don't look back at this period very fondly. I actually happen to like it.
This is when the cracks in the armor started to appear internally.
Very much so. There were arguments over who was going to sing what songs.
Ron Nevison produced, I believe, right? No, Mike.
He started out producing it, but they switched to a guy by the name of Mike Clink, who wasn't very well known at this time. A year later,
he would be a few months later.
Yeah, producing
the very next album he produced, I believe, the very next album. Some band out of Hollywood that were becoming quite large.
Doesn't sound anything like that album.
No, this is very processed.
Album. Yeah,
you and I have speculated about how much of this is real drums and.
This album, I think there's one song that's a drum machine, and that is "Play with the Fire," which is a wicked song, by the way. I just think there's a drum machine on it. Now, I'm a sucker for. So Somebody's Out There came off of this one. It was their highest charting single in the States. It got to number 27. I remember, being excited. I used to get excited whenever I hear a Canadian, band on U.S. radio that wasn't Bryan Adams, because you're just not used to it, right? And so it reached number 27. And, I listen to it now. I still like it. But I said, man, somebody, no pun intended, missed an opportunity. If this song had been linked to a movie, because you take out Rick Emmett's vocal and you put in Jimmy Jamison, this is a Survivor song, basically. It's an anthem. It's a typical 80s movie anthem that just isn't in a movie.
And it had that hooky keyboard lick that repeated throughout the song that was very, very in at the time.
Probably just a sequencer. So Mike Lebrain on stage just hits one key. It never.
And then he might want to hit the loop again to stay in time with Gil.
So that it modulates up a key like they do on the final chorus.
Yeah, there you go.
So while we're talking about that, I have the 45 to this, which I chuckle when this happens, because it's like you couldn't come up with something else. You just use the album cover again.
Ghostly them.
Yeah. And this is actually a promo copy, because it's a white label promo.
Oh yeah, wow, interesting.
So it just has the same song on both sides. And
if I might just take a moment here, I really loved so many of these songs in my high school years, Tim. What Rules My Heart, If Only, Hooked on You, Take a Stand, and Don't Love Anybody Else But Me. They all made it onto my mixtapes. All of them.
Here's the thing. Don't Love Anybody Else But Me, to me, is like the Great Lost Boston song.
It's so good. Like, it's
like that guitar line, that could have been a Boston song.
I love it when it comes in. Don't talk about a lady like she'll only let you down.
But that's On and On.
Oh shit! Damn, you're right. Well, I like both of those songs.
Similar songs, kind of similar songs, and it's the first time that there were outside songwriters on a Triumph album, aside from obviously Rocky Mountain Way. Speaking
of by the name of Eric Martin, I believe, right?
Well, and look, I love this song. This is a great power ballad from In Just One Night. It's one of Gil's best vocals.
Absolutely, 100%.
On the original version.
Yeah. Well,
but this is actually, it's still the original version, but this is the video version,
which I want so bad. It's got the extra drums.
Yeah. And I missed that because I saw the video to the song before I got the Sport of Kings album.
Which is a wild video, by the way.
It is. It's very
Van Halen, feels so good.
Yeah. They did a lot of videos like that. It's like those things you had when you were a kid, when you turn them and there's different things going by.
They could only do that. They could only scroll to the right back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Now we've invented scrolling.
Everything is far, far to the right. This one is, let me see now. And this remixed version didn't end up anywhere.
No, so Tim, just quickly, is that the only place you can get the remixed version? Because that's what I want.
As far as I know, because I didn't think it was any place. This is a little bit before cassette singles, way before CD singles. I've never thought to see if like somewhere like the UK or Japan has a CD single of this. That might be worth looking into.
Yeah, but that's
B-side
probably
of this
more
one is
affordable
Hooked
for
on
me.
You, by the way. You mentioned that song, which is a catchy song.
Yeah.
This was a hard CD for me to find. I didn't find it till 94. Columbia House was having a sale. So I found it on CD. Ultimately, or ironically, even though it was Canada, they sent me a US CD, but that's all right.
Interesting.
And I remember my local Sam's was getting rid of their vinyl, probably 91. I bought this for $1. It had been previously opened, and it's got all the same stuff in it. But yeah, this album did not do what I'm sure what the band or what MCA thought it would do. So
no, it did seem like it was kind of contrived to a certain kind of radio sound to try to get some singles out of it. And of course, I think there was only the two.
Yeah, and there were definitely only the two videos. They might have put another, sometimes I don't know why they bother doing it, but sometimes you'll see that there are singles for songs that don't have videos. It's like, how are you ever going to get, at this point, radio play? Yeah, Mike Lebrain's even said, by the time we did our second MCA album, we had our highest charting single and our lowest selling album. People didn't automatically make that connection between the band that did the single and the band that did the album. And that, to me, I put that under the record label because you're supposed to present that as a fully fledged campaign.
Yeah.
Here's the song. You like it. Here's where you can get it, Also available on compact disc.
Yes.
Compact digital disc.
Compact digital disc.
I remember a radio station circa like early 86, one of their big, they'd play a song from the CD.
We're playing you digital now.
I'm laughing at it, but I'm nostalgic for it at the same time.
Can you hear that digital?
Get the digital difference? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, and in pretty short order, they spat out another album.
Yeah.
One more time. Still to this date, the last album to feature the original lineup, Surveillance, came out.
I have mixed feelings about it. Like
1987.
I mentioned on it, accidentally mentioned on and on. There's some good stuff on here, but then there's some real crud as well.
It's interesting. You can tell that, they were trying to push that commercial thing further. I love the album cover.
So that's the return of the Never Surrender guy.
And I even like the fact they put the logo on the cassette itself.
Oh, that's cool. That's rare.
Yeah. This has more songs on it that were, supplied by outside writers. And I don't know, but I've listened to this. I listened to this not too long ago. I actually like a fair bit of it. Some of it's pretty typical Triumph. Never Say Never is your typical Triumph anthem. It was the only video they did from it. On and On's a great melodic song. That should have been a single and a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you got Headed for Nowhere is a good rocker. I believe that's got Steve Morse.
Correct about that, Steve Morse. Yeah,
with Rick Emmett.
All the King's Horses is fantastic with J.D. Roberts.
With the little, it's an environmental anthem. I think you and I have the CD, the best, the same CD version of it, just the reissue. And I once had the MCA issue, but it started to skip on me, and we can't have that. So, but they didn't even bother. All they did was they repackaged the US CD booklet, which anyway, whatever.
AAD, back to that digital. And I have a couple of singles.
Oh, cool. I don't have any singles. Those are the only 45s I have. Those both from Sport of Kings. So,
well, these are the only 45s I have. Now, and I have something very special, which unfortunately, I can't show you physically, but Much Music 87, Rick Emmett came down and he did a full power hour with Erica M. And they had,
I remember that.
Yes. And he played Let the Light Shine on Me acoustic.
Yep.
And I still have it on tape and I've uploaded it to YouTube. No, I haven't. Have I? I can't remember.
Is that the same one where they do the guitar duel?
Yes, with Syl Simone.
Syl Simone, yeah.
Yes.
Who co-wrote Never Say Never.
And I'm pretty sure I've uploaded that entire episode to YouTube. Yeah. I went out and bought the single because I wanted to hear the studio version, and it was good, but I think I preferred the acoustic version that he played on Much Music. and the B-side there, Long Time Gone. And that's just a great image. I tried to draw this guy so many times and failed.
I like the characters along the bottom of it. It's supposed to be like a futuristic.
It's almost like the Star Wars kind of writing when you see their language on a view screen.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that. I always had a thing though for a target, like a sight directly over the eye like this. Remember the last Starfighter? There was that one guy who I loved that whole aesthetic, and this guy just kind of tickled my funny bone as far as that goes. The other single I have is Never Say Never itself.
Yep. On that
B-side on that
the
one.
way they did the logo on there too.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is.
A little personalization going on.
B-side is the second track, Headed for Nowhere. So it's basically the first two tracks. But what I wanted, and I don't know if you can help me out, Tim, I wanted the version of Never Say Never with the opening, very, very progressive, right? And then he goes, never, before the guitar lick. I don't know if such a thing exists on a physical.
I'll tell you, if it's not on that single, no. That was the old videos where there'd be dialogue.
And there was a woman running around, and there was Rick wearing leather. And I remember you could tell Rick wasn't happy because he kept on talking about the good hair production in that video.
Yeah.
He really resented that. It was very obvious. And this came out in an interview with Laurie Brown later on. But I do want to say one
Power
thing.
Hour where Rick talked about all these different guitar players. The Axeman Cometh. I used to have that on
which I have also uploaded to YouTube. You can find it on my YouTube channel. Now I do want to say one more thing about the Erica M interview. There was an awkward, and it's only awkward in hindsight, but there's an awkward moment after he plays Let the Light Shine on Me where she says, have you ever thought about going solo? Wait a minute, folks. I have a chance to break up Triumph. Yeah. And it's like, in hindsight, holy crap. Like
probably on it, because a year later, right? I remember I think it was like September of '88. It was on Much Music. They announced that Rick Emmett had left, and it was like, wow, that sucks.
It was, I read it in the Toronto Sun.
As has happened so many times, I basically just get into a band and they break up. That happened so many times.
Triumph were the first band, or maybe the second. It depends on if it was them first or Dokken, but they were one of the first bands that broke up that I liked,
They broke up, or at least it was announced before Dokken, because Beast from the East came out late '88, and then they did the new song Walk Away, and then it was like, wow. I got into Dokken like a year after they'd broken up. My timing is so good. So next up,
but it wasn't the end. It wasn't the end.
No, it wasn't the end. But boy, it sure seemed like it. It was none too. It was. I'm glad it's better now. I'm glad they put all of that behind them. There was money involved, and basically, if one member walked away, they
got 1/9. They got 1/9.
Yeah. So it was pretty ugly, especially where most of the Triumph anthems Rick sang. So
he was the Paul Stanley, Gilmore was the Gene Simmons.
Yeah, although I think they're both great singers. Yes, and I think Gil got better and better, right?
Like, and you know how hard it is to sing while playing drums.
Well, like Neil Peart once, not that he sang, he said, "I just to have enough oxygen in a human body to do it," and he said. That's why you notice with a lot of those players like Phil Collins and Don Henley, eventually they get another drummer and they go up to be the front man.
Yes.
But yeah. So of course, I don't know, a record label is not going to, any band that had any success whatsoever, they're not going to let them go without putting out the obligatory greatest hits. And in this case, it's a good one. Yes. Triumph Classics came up with spring '89. No internet. I didn't read anything about them at this time. I remember walking into Sam's and saw this. No thought process. It was like, I'm going in to buy a cassette. I don't know what I'm going to get.
I bought it from the Columbia House catalog. And I always thought it looked like maybe the hood of a black sleek car.
Well, I always thought it was a close-up of the helmet, but I don't know.
That could be.
I don't know. But this is the cassette has 10 songs on it.
Right. The CD has
a good overview. It's a good overview. Yeah, the CD had World of Fantasy on it, which I remember. So when I bought this, I didn't yet have, obviously I didn't have the first two, but I didn't yet have Never Surrender or Sport of Kings. So it was the first time I ever heard Tears in the Rain, surprisingly enough. Well, there's no video for it. And well, there was nothing on the cassette. There was nothing from Never Surrender. All I knew from Never Surrender was the title song, When the Lights Go Down. I'd never heard of World of Fantasy until I bought never surrender. But a good overview, it's to me, it's still the go-to, if you're gonna, I still call them car CDs. And I eventually got it, of course, on CD. And yeah, it had World of Fantasy on it, which what I always thought was interesting about World of Fantasy, this came out early 83. And I'll put this question to you, Mike. Who was the first to come up with the line, all wrapped up in a mystery? Was it Triumph or was it Def Leppard? You were all wrapped up in a mystery.
Triumph. That's my guess. Triumph.
Yes, because I have read in some places that album came out in late 82 in Canada. I don't know.
You know what, Tim? I just realized something is that I'm really sorry, but I skipped a couple of things from the whatchamacallit. I skipped a couple of things from Thunder 7 era.
Well, since we're on classics, which has songs from Thunder 7, we'll say that it's planned.
Okay, so one of the great singles that's included on classics is Spellbound.
Yeah.
Fantastic song. So
promo.
Here's a very, very rare Spellbound promo 12-inch single.
Yeah.
And this includes, we've talked about this offline, this includes little interview bits about each song. So They talk about every song on the album. It's a short 9-minute side, but they talk about every song on the album on the B-side here. And by all three group members. And this cost $4 at Jerry's Records in, I believe, Pittsburgh.
That's awesome.
Also from the same purchase is a promo single for Hold On RCA.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty old.
Radio version, short version and long version.
Yeah, that's right, because the radio version is about half. Like, it's not. Yeah, and the video version's like that too. It doesn't have the acoustic intro.
So the DJ thought it was important to note that the long version was 6:04. He didn't want anybody making a mistake about that.
You know what? That could have been a bathroom song, like Donna Halper would always say. When it was not automated. Listen, I can speak to that. I'm not going to go into
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I have played Stairway to Heaven, and I have played like Paradise by the Dashboard Light, or I guess the early 90s equivalent would be November Rain.
Yeah.
To buy some time.
Right. We know what you're talking about.
We'll leave it at that.
Nature.
So so Classics comes out. Classics eventually went gold in the States, which is kind of cool. But Rick Emmett goes solo. And one of the pleasant surprises, again, watching much music, fall of 92. Okay, this is I call it the dark years because I'm not a grunge fan.
Yes.
But I see this video. I see this video called Child of the City.
Yeah.
It's dark. It's gritty. It's Triumph. And it's like,
it was.
They're back. Edge of Excess. The cassette is very dark. There we go.
Yeah. You can see sort of dragon-looking carvings behind them.
Yeah. This is a Canadian version, which was on Virgin Records.
Produced by Mike Lebrain.
Yeah.
I mean, even look at the song titles. Black Sheep.
Yeah. Troublemaker.
Turn My Back on Love.
Yeah. So
it's over.
Mine's a US copy with the hype sticker. It was on a short-lived label distributed by Polygram called Victory Records, which was started by Phil Carson, who used to be with Atlantic. And the only other album I have on Victory is Yes Talk, which came out in early 94. And I think as soon as it came out, Victory Records went,
yeah.
So there goes all the promotion for that album.
Yeah, it just didn't have a chance. It wouldn't have had a chance anyway.
It wouldn't have had a chance anyway, no. I thought It's Over was a good ballad. Obviously, Gil sings everything on this. And as people know, Phil X is the guitar player on here. I like the look of the CD.
It's actually Mladen Zeron that plays on most of this album.
Yeah. I like the look of the CD.
Mine's different. Completely different.
Mine's a US one. So as weird as it is, to see a third guy in Triumph that's not Rick Emmett, this was a melodic hard rock album in 1992, and to me there weren't enough of those. But
that's right.
Obviously, there's just absolutely no way that it just couldn't continue. They did a few, they did a handful of shows, but there was no full-fledged tour, and that remains the last Triumph album.
fact is, Tim, it would have been hard to do a tour with there's only so many Rick songs that they could have done with Phil singing. And
well, I think I actually read about this in a magazine like early on. They were asking them about touring. They were actually going to take Rick Santers with them.
Yes,
who they'd already taken out on tour, starting with Sport of Kings.
Yes,
and Rick Santers, I think, is very similar to Carl Dixon as far as vocal chops go. So capable of singing the Rick songs. But yeah, you can't. It would be like them, Kiss going out,
yeah,
and not doing any Paul songs. You can't do it.
Yeah, it would have been very crippling for their set list. And you got to give them credit for trying. They really did. They put together, they painstakingly put together this album with Mladen Zeron, and then brought in Phil X in the end to finish it. And of course, Phil X had a career with Frozen Ghost first as a sideman, and then with Aldo Nova as a sideman.
Yeah.
And more, very capable guitar player, as Bon Jovi fans know today.
With that funny looking whammy bar.
Yeah.
That looks like a something he dug out of a toolbox. But
yeah. But great tone. Great tone. I love his tone.
I gave it a shot, and a lot of people, and the band themselves don't talk about this very fondly. It's never been issued on vinyl, to my knowledge.
It's their Van Halen Gary Cherone album. It's their Motley Crue John Corabi album. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it gets neglected.
It's literally the black sheep.
It's literally the black sheep. On it. Those songs don't make it onto the greatest hits. The only one that does is the outtake, Love Hurts, which was an outtake.
Or the video to Child of the City, which we'll get to that. I was surprised they put that on there, actually. I got a lot to say about that album. The next thing I found that came out is, and you've talked about it because it comes with the Allied Forces reissue.
Yeah.
The King Biscuit in the mid-90s started King Biscuit Flower Hour. It's a funny sounding title. King Biscuit was a flower company, and they sponsored these late night concerts. I remember hearing different syndicated ones. They started in the 70s, but they went on until the late 80s anyway. I used to have a Bon Jovi concert from the Slippery tour on a cassette. It was Sunday night. The radio station I listened to played it. And what I remember about that, they actually did an a cappella version with just piano of Drift Away by Dobie Gray. And Richie sang one of the verses. And other than The Wanted, that's the first time I actually heard him say, wow, man, that guy's a great singer. Maybe he'll do a solo album. But anyway, but yeah, King Biscuit Flower Hour. So they, in the mid-90s, they started issuing CDs of a lot of the performances. And there's Deep Purple. I got a Kansas one, which is awesome. But yeah, they put this Triumph one out. And this is from 1981, the Public Hall in Cleveland, Ohio, October 12th, 1981. This is a fantastic concert. There's great liner notes here. I like the way the CD, I like the CD here, and great write-up about it. Talk from Mike Lebrain. There's an interesting story about how they actually got signed to RCA Records. In a nutshell, they played a show, probably in Toronto, sold out or whatever, and all of the morning papers trashed the band. They were never a Critics' Darling band, ever. But his name was Warren Schatz, Schatz. Maybe it's Shots. Maybe I said that wrong, but from RCA Records, missed his plane, got the afternoon paper that raved about the show, and he ended up signing the band to RCA Records. So it was that kind of weird twist of fate. So, and I don't have anything until 2003 when this came out.
Right. I have this too, but could not locate it.
I don't have the DVD. This is the CD with the DVD that's just got a couple songs on it of their performance at the US Festival in 1983. I see the DVD's falling out of this. Now, what does this limited edition DVD? So it's not the complete. So this is, again, another reissue campaign. You'll see no Edge of Excess there.
Right. That's the one I have.
Does, shoot. Let me see now. Seems to me that it's got a couple of live tracks. And I think it's got the videos for Spellbound and Follow Your Heart, but I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah. I would say this was a good performance, but one of the songs, it's like they stop halfway through. something. I've never liked the way they've done that live, but since I can't remember enough about it, I won't speak to it. But it's cool that they were there, because when you look at the other bands that were there, they kind of really didn't fit in. But apparently the organizers, guys with money, were fans of the band. So
yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
Next thing is in 2010. I think we both have
this. Is the I Live for the Weekend? No, there was.
No, I don't have that one.
There was, okay, so there was a compilation that came before this, I believe, double CD called I Live for the Weekend, and I can't find my copy, but it did have Love Hurts on it.
I think.
Sorry?
I think it came out in Europe. I don't think it was
possibly, but it did have Love Hurts on it. I don't think it was an officially
sanctioned one.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I'm not sure, but I do have this as well.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
You didn't care for the remixes.
Well, okay, some of them. So this is the CD DVD combo. And it says remixed. What it doesn't say is in some cases re-recorded.
Right. Just One Night is very obvious.
The vocals are terrible on that song.
They are not good.
I Live for the Weekend has got a different vocal on it. It's not bad, but it's different. Somebody's Out There has a different vocal on it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they felt the need to do that. I think Allied Forces sounds amazing. The drums are huge. I think that album was pretty well produced to begin with, but I love what they did with that. I love what they did with the Just a Game songs with the drum sound, particularly.
Yeah. The drums sound good, yes.
I don't, both of the Sport of Kings singles, I don't like what they did, but just One Night, I like Gilmore's voice, but it almost, I don't know if he doesn't like the song and was just trying to
take the piss.
A version of it. Yeah. But incidentally, it was years later, when I started reading the credits, Just One Night was co-written by Eric Martin and Neil Sean for Eric Martin's 1985 album, which I think was just self-titled. Now, Eric's version is very light, very AC, but boy, does he sing the crap out of it. It's in a higher key.
I wonder.
It's interesting to listen to, but I like the Triumph version much better.
I wonder if the re-recordings, those songs are from Sport of Kings. I wonder if maybe some master tapes were lost and they had to, since these are all remixed, it's called Greatest Hits Remixed.
You know something? You might be onto something, because they would have the, from the first album through Never Surrender, that's all theirs. But
yeah.
And,
it's possible.
So as far as Spellbound, Follow Your Heart, I mean, Thunder 7's a great sounding album to begin with. All they could really do, I think the only thing they could do to improve that is turn it up a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's hit and miss. It's a pretty good song selection, but I'd still prefer classics. I'm glad they put the When the Lights Go Down. It's cool to have on there. And they recorded it for Edge of Excess. They did a version of Love Hurts. So it's
I like the DVD on this. I think the DVD is good value. You get 11 of the music videos and then some bonus tracks.
I like how you said that. 11 of the music videos.
Yes.
It doesn't have all their videos on it.
No.
And that kind of bothers me. I wish that they'd put, let's see, what's missing on here? They did 4 clips.
Never Surrender's not on here.
Nope, it is. It's the 10th one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, towards the end.
But it's missing a lot. They did 4 clips from Just a Game so that RCA could promote, I found this out later, their new VCRs by having this Triumph thing on a loop, which is bloody brilliant on Mike Lebrain's part. Yeah. That's where Hold On, Lay It on the Line came from. But they also did American Girls and what's the first song? Moving On. You don't see those two as much, especially Moving On. But they all look the same. They were all filmed at the same location. I don't think there's any videos from Progressions of Power, but
not that I know
they
of.
don't have the original Magic Power on here. It's the US Festival version. Now,
that's the one I'm familiar with. That's my original
Forces versions are very cheesy, but they should have put them on there because there's Allied Forces, there's Magic Power, and there's one for Say Goodbye.
But if I could say, as a fan,
they're performing on a giant flying V, and Rick Emmett's up at the headstock. It's cheesy.
I want to see that so bad.
I wish they'd put. I'd love to see high-res versions of those on here.
I will say, as a fan, my favorite bonus feature on this is the Hall of Fame induction footage.
That's very cool. It brings it up to date. Yeah,
it's cool because there's a lot there I didn't know before. Like Tom Cochrane and Gil Moore are best friends. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Until
He and
then.
Dr. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're best
what else?
friends.
What else isn't on here? Mind Games. You hardly ever see that video anywhere. That's
No,
not on here.
no. No, it's not a very good video either because Rick had left by that point. They made that video later on. They made that video later on, like in 1989, 90. I don't know why, but they did.
Yeah.
And Rick is not in that video. It's only
Yeah,
Gil.
it's only Gil in this.
And you can tell that it was made after Rick left for that because of that. It didn't air. You never saw it until Rick left. It was definitely made after Rick left.
I have never seen that video on Much Music. I saw it once on Video Hits.
Oh, interesting. I taped it off the Power Hour.
I didn't know. I'd never seen it on Much Music. But anyway, I like that they put Child of the City on here.
Yes, thank you for that.
I like the fact that there's a version of Blinding Light Show.
Yes, thank you for
that. I love that song. The Love Hurts fan YouTube video. I'm sorry, whoever put it together, but it's
leave it on YouTube.
Kind of useless to me.
Yeah, leave it on YouTube.
I think this is good. It could have been great.
Yeah, but good, maybe there were probably restraints and things that we are speculating about. And
actually, I forgot. I will say this. Oh, there's one more thing that drives me nuts about this, Mike. Here we go. It's
damn it. Yes, yes.
Hates it, Precious. We hates it.
But that was not even that's not the end. Even that's not the end.
No, that's not the end. But I will say one thing I really did like about that release is the liner notes. I learned a lot from reading the liner notes.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. The other thing, this is really cool. This was originally recorded in 2008. It didn't come out till 2012, live at the Sweden Rock Festival. The only one of two reunion shows that Triumph did.
And it's a good one.
I think quite a good one. Yeah, they had Dave Dunlop on additional guitars. A good set list. I mean, there's nothing newer than Never Surrender, but it's still a good set list. I love, again, they do Blinding Light Show. I love that.
Now, I've received comments on my review of this that there was some overdubbing done after the fact.
There very well could have been.
Look at that. I don't care. That's my response. I don't care.
This is why people want Triumph back, because they put on shows like that, right?
Blinding Light Show.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this was a cool release. I mean, obviously they're older, but they sounded good. The
Rick
story behind it. Yeah, the story behind the fact, Rick burying the hatchet with the guys, it was his brother's dying wish. It's very special, right?
It is.
Like that.
It
so,
is.
and we're still not done because, obviously Rick had a prolific solo career.
Jazz, blues, rock,
all over
acoustic.
the place.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one thing, and I actually did a review episode of this when it came out. We both have this Resolution 9. So this came out on Provoke Records, which I think is one of those labels that went under as soon as it came out.
There's Dave Dunlop again.
Yeah, Dave Dunlop, Paul DeLong, fantastic drummer from the Kim Mitchell Band, and Steve Skingley. That's not a name I'm familiar with. Now,
hey, he's good enough to rock with Rick, man.
there were a lot of things that drew me to pick this up. The fact that Alex Lifeson and James Lebrain appear on here, on one of them on, one of the songs have both of them on here. But the last song, Grand Parade, featuring Gilmore and Mike Lebrain. So it's a mini Triumph reunion within the confines of this Rick Emmett solo album. And this, I'll be honest with you, this warmed the heart when I saw this. There they are, the three of them, the boys, putting it all behind them. Now, it's not a very Triumph sounding song.
Not at all.
A song like End of the Line on here would have been more, Triumph oriented, or Human Race is an up-tempo song that, that's one of the ones that Alex is on. But yeah, this is a good album. I enjoyed this. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of the Sammy Hagar Marching to Mars album, where one of the tracks has the original Montrose on it. So it's like a reunion song within a solo album. And, it's not really it there either. I don't have a physical copy of it, but the documentary,
it's still a new release, basically.
It's relatively new. Yeah, I have seen it. It's really good. It's got, Sebastian Bach's on it. It's got a bunch of people. I think John Five's on it talking about the band, which is kind of surprising. And it's about as in-depth as it gets. And I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but if you're a Triumph fan, it's worth the watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what would be some Triumph releases of yours, Mike, that you'd love to stumble upon?
Well, you're talking about things that I don't have yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go on Amazon in a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can fill in some blanks in my studio albums collection, see if I can get some of those remasters. I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't find the I Live for the Weekend and the Yes Festival CDs, but they got to be here. But I really want to hear classics again. That one really had it was summer of '89, and I played that a lot that summer. In fact, I recorded a little bit of the guitar solo from Rock and Roll Machine. I believe it has the extended guitar solo. Recorded a little bit of that onto a tape, and I claimed to a girl that I liked that was me playing. And that was due to Triumph Classics. So, I kind of want to get a copy of Triumph Classics again.
It's a good mixed CD, and it's well sequenced.
Yeah.
It's sequenced like a really, really good album.
Now, I would like to know who sequenced it, if the band had involvement, which members of the band.
I would think Mike Lebrain has his hands in just about everything Triumph does, probably even more so than Gil, because, Gil has Metalworks.
Yeah, he was busy.
And he has golf.
He has golf.
He has Metalworks and golf.
I always wondered, though, if there was any contact with the Rick Emmett camp, whether through lawyers or other. I'm
just guessing, Mike. You can do these things without direct contact. There were probably faxes. He probably had to sign off on it.
That's what I
just wondered. Like when, Jimmy Page puts out the Led Zeppelin CDs for the umpteenth time. Robert Plant, John Paul Jones have to sign off on it. So I would imagine there was a little bit of, and Rick was probably, fine, whatever.
Yeah, he was busy. He had to put together a brand new band, and he was determined not to repeat himself. Yeah. And he didn't.
So, yeah, so as far as me, the main one, the big one that sticks out is the Never Surrender 8-track. I really want to get that and complete my Triumph 8-track collection. As far as I know, Triumph Thunder 7 is the last one. Although it wouldn't surprise me to eventually learn that Sport of Kings exists. And the reason I say that is because so it's MCA, it's 1986. Boston Third Stage exists. Kansas Power exists, which is even more obscure album than Sport of Kings. So it's possible, but
but you don't never seen it in a catalog or what have you.
It is the the endless RCO search.
Oh, sorry, one last one. The 7-inch single that we discussed at the beginning of the show. Yes. I don't know how much that's going for on Discogs, but
Mike, I had that on my want list on Discogs once, and it came up, and I think that the seller was in Sweden, and it would have been like $120, and I was like, I would, but I'm not spending $120 on a 45.
I would. That's within my budget. I would do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that.
Go to Discogs, go to singles, and Hobo, and I can't remember what the other song's called. It's on Attic Records.
Okay. I'd be willing to pay that. Of course, it's probably more expensive now, but
yeah, now that we've said it. Oh,
yeah. Exactly. Get that sucker in the Triumph jersey.
Watch out for the latex. So, Mike, I don't think I have much more to add. A great band, and I love talking about them. I love being able to, hopefully get somebody out there, no pun intended, to say, yeah, I always like them. Maybe I'll get some of their albums. That's the goal. That's why we do this, right? That's why you do it on your show. It's why I do it on mine.
All I'll add is a personal plug. If you want to check out some of those Triumph videos that we were talking about, the Rick Emmett stuff on Much Music, these are historic videos, actually, and I got them on my YouTube.
Go to Lebrain on YouTube and follow. Yeah, Mike's uploaded so many things where I go, I've seen it, I remember that. This is historical stuff. By the way, I don't know if you want to speak to this or not. It's so good, it found its way to Watch Mojo. Did it not? Maybe you don't want to go.
That was Motley Crue, but yeah.
Maybe you don't want to go there.
I'm still a little. I didn't watermark all my videos, and I really should have. Is all I'm going to say.
Okay, right on.
Next time, watermarked.
Yeah, lesson learned, folks. But anyway, thanks, Mike. As always, it's always a pleasure, and there'll be more Grab a Stack of Rock, and Mike will be on this show more. Don't forget, folks, still selling $5 PDFs of Unspooled, an adventure in 8 tracks. Your name goes in to win Amazon gift cards. And yeah, just PayPal me. Send me a note if you want to find out more about that. Thanks to everybody that's ordered so far. And thank you, Mike.
Behind Riff Kills Man. I'm sorry I put Riff Kills Man in front of it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's an honor. It's an honor. Yeah, and thanks, Mike, for promoting it on your show too. So
you're very welcome.
Thanks, folks. Go listen to some Triumph, and thank you for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We'll see you later.
See ya.